Hey everyone, Lambo here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're diving into the basics of Giants Editor 10, focusing specifically on how to use it for vehicles in Farming Simulator 25. Whether you're customizing, tweaking, or creating from scratch, this guide will show you the key functions you need to know. Now, before we get started, I recommend checking out our last video where we edited the in-game ATV. This tutorial covers some fundamental concepts that will help you get the most out of today's walkthrough. We won't be touching on the Blender i3D exporter in this video. Instead, we'll focus entirely on understanding the Giants Editor basics and how they apply to vehicle modding. By the end of this tutorial, you'll be ready to start editing and refining vehicles with confidence. So let's jump right into it. If you haven't already downloaded the sample mod that I have provided in the first episode, I'll put that up on screen now. Once you get it downloaded, you're going to put it in your Documents, My Games, Farming Simulator 25 mods folder. It'll be in here just like this, unzipped. I use 7-zip free, and what we need to do is extract to its own folder, FS25, and it'll have this little slash at the end of it. After we do that, it creates its own folder here. We want to make sure that if you're going to save this, that's great, but you need to get it out of this folder. I'm just going to delete it for right now. If you want to move it to another folder, that's great. If you don't, it's going to read that file first and you'll be making edits and not realize what you're doing. But with that open, we can dive right into setting up our XML and mod disk. In the previous Giants editor, you could come right up here to File and go New Mod from Game, and it would pop up with this little box here, and you could go through and find what you're looking for and just make it that way. With the new version of the game, Engine 10, when we go up there to click on that button, it actually gives me a big fat error. And there we go. Failed to load image from, and it's just a ton. There's actually a ton of errors here. This might just be me, to be honest with you, because I mess around with the files a lot. But if you're having this issue, no worries. I have a workaround for you, because why not learn a neat way? Ooh. What we're going to do instead is go up to File. We're going to go to Open. From Open, you're going to want to be in your Farming Simulator 25 folder. I have this on Steam. This could be different from you, but under Steam, it'll be Steam, Steam Apps, Common, Farming Simulator 25. You could just do a computer search in your program files for Farming Simulator 25 and do a search that way to find this folder. But from here, we're going to go to Data. I don't know how to say that properly. Then we're going to go to Vehicles. Now, I want to edit the Komodo. If you've been watching my videos before, you know that I cannot pronounce that for some reason. Even somebody put it in the comments and they said that, and I was like struggling with it. But we're going to want to find that. Well, you've found it by now. Once we get that open, I'm looking specifically for the RTVXG85 Pro. Once we get that open, you're going to see it right in here. What I like to do prior to this moment is right click on the file. Do not mess this up. Do not click the delete button. And then click rename. And with it selected, we're going to copy this name. And now that we have that copy, just the name, not the file. I just want you to copy the name. This will make your life a lot easier momentarily. Okay, let's open it. Going to load up here. Here we go. This is so cool. Giants editors are working. I'm happy. One of the first things I want you to do is come right up here to create. Under create, you're going to see this thing camera. Do not move your screen at all or you're going to regret it. If you do end up moving your screen, I just want you to reload it. You are currently in a camera and the camera is looking in a specific location. If you move at all to view a different angle of this vehicle, it'll mess it up. Don't do that. We're going to click camera. Now that we have a new camera created, we're going to right click on the main viewport here and we're going to find this little tab that says camera, and we're going to click on that new camera. It's going to put us in a different view. In this view, you're 100% okay to move around and do what you need to do. How I do it is I hold my right mouse button, and using that, you can move your mouse around and look around and whatnot. And if you use your ASWD keys, if you're playing Call of Duty or something, you can actually, while holding your right mouse click button, move around and view what you want to do. There's something particular that you want to look at, you can also click on it, and with the object selected, you can press the F key and it'll put it completely in focus. So if we were to go there and there, or maybe that camera, your middle mouse button and it will zoom you in and out. Now, continuing on with it, we do not want to hit save right now. If you hit save, that extra camera will be saved in the game, and every time you load it up, it'll cause an error from your in-game. You'll have to reset your files. What we want to do instead is come right up here to File and go Save As. Remember earlier when I told you to copy that name that was right there? What we're going to do is track down our mods folder, that sample mod in-game. And inside of here, what I like to do if I'm making a mod that has a lot of vehicles or stuff in it, I make a lot of packs. So I like to create a folder and just call it i3D. Once I have that open, I'm going to double click on it, open it up. I'm going to paste that name under the file name here, the RT, just to make life easier for when we do the coding here in a minute. And we'll hit save. After we hit save, we can notice up at the top here that we are in the proper area. We are in our mod. You want to ensure that you are in your mod or whatever you're trying to work out of. A lot of times what your mistakes are going to be is you're working out of the wrong folder, trying to read the wrong files. With having our own i3D now, we can pretty much make all sorts of different changes and it won't break the in-game stuff. It's just a beautiful feeling. But we need to fix some things. You will currently get an error with this camera just chilling out here in the open because this bad boy is what's called a scene graph. Look at it like a GPS coordinates and an asset holder. Okay, these are just assets that are in here, and some of these objects, such as this collision, has additional properties over here that you would edit for the rigid body and whatnot. For the most part, Giants Editor holds the assets, does a little bit of coding, and it gives you collision information, it gives you material information, and that's mostly it interties with the XML to create your mod. With the scenograph, you can do a couple different things. You can do copy and paste, you can do a duplicate, and you can also, what we're going to do is we're going to click on this camera, and then we're going to click with your middle mouse button. Click and hold it, and we're going to drag it up into let's just drop it in this wheels folder. Okay, what we've done there is when this loads up in the Giants Editor, it's going to put you in the first camera that it comes to, and that first camera would be your outdoor camera. So every time you hit save, reload, you'll have to adjust camera, enter new camera. If you just want to make it a fast, smooth modding process, create a camera, drop it in your wheels tag at the very bottom. Don't drop it in any of these folders, just at the very bottom here. It'll load up into that one initially. At this point, I want you to hit save, and let's continue on with the next process of grabbing that XML if you haven't done this already, which we did cover that in episode 1. I'll try to put a little link up in the cards right now to go check that one if you're already knee deep in this and don't understand. Let us dive back into our data folder, and we're going to go back to that Kubota folder. We're going to snag that XML that is inside of that folder and basically copy and paste it into our new mod. That way any edits or changes we make, it's not going to break the game. So we'll just hit copy on that guy, and we will paste it into our current working mod under our mods folder inside of here. I'm going to go to the XML, and we're going to paste it inside there. Now we want that name again. If you don't have it copied still, you're going to want just the name, not the XML part. Now, with that being said, I want you to open up your mod disk now, which should pop up, look something similar to this. In previous episodes, I kind of explained what all this kind of stuff is. You can change the name and whatnot. Go watch that. Down here to store item in the XML, we're going to drop this bad boy name right in there. And it is how this works is it's going to load a store item from this XML file name, and we have to give the proper folder syntax. So it's going to be looking in the folder XML, and they got your little break right there, and here's the XML name, and that would be just like this in this folder. We're going to ensure we hit save on this here, and let's open up this XML that we copy and pasted. In this XML, we will have to scroll down to the base tag section right here, and what we need to change first is right here, file name. Right now, this $ means it's reaching into the data folder of the game. So anytime it sees this, it's going to look into the game files. Now, if we were to delete that and we had a folder named data and a folder named vehicles, Kubota, and all the way down the line here, it would look in our mod. If it couldn't find that, it would pop an error. So ours is actually in the i3D folder right under the mod disks. So you want to put this in order like that We're going to put i3D here and delete the rest of it because that is our base folder. And now it's going to be looking for our new i3D we just created. Now what I would like you to do is open up your game. I want you to see if this is in there, if it went through, and then I want you to go into the store and see if it's in there. Okay, if you're not seeing it in this screen where it says mods and DLC, you have an issue in your mod disk. So I want you to come back to this file, and I want you to make sure that you were pointed at the right XML file right here, and all this information looks similar to this. In prior videos, I showed you how to use the till key to actually look and see if there's any errors that we have in here. And we will see right off the bat that only zipped mods are supported in multiplayer. You need to zip the mod and whatnot. So just like I said earlier, if you plan on uploading or using in multiplayer, you have to zip it. If not, you can just have none of my mods are zipped unless I share them with somebody. It's if you're going to upload and share with other people, you want to zip it and test it while it's zipped. See if there's any what's called case issues, where maybe the file is a capital C and you use a lowercase c, it'll cause a case issue. Okay, so let's load up, and I like to watch it as it loads in game. If any errors pop up or anything like that, I like to just see it right off the bat. And I know that I messed up. Well, awesome. Not a single error popped up, and we are ready to try it in game and load it in game. I'm a cowboy. Come into here. I like to leave my window up. It's probably not very good for you guys to see it. But when you very first load up the mod, it is gonna, basically when it loads in, it's when it's gonna pop up with the errors or whatnot. So I'm gonna leave this open, and I'm gonna click on our new sidekick, and we can see from these files here, I'll try to zoom in, you can see that it has loaded from our sample mod i3D with 0 errors instead of loading from the in-game, which will look like this. You can see here that it loaded from data Budo. You can see where it loaded from. So the cool thing is this is where we can actually start modding and adding customizations and features. And one of the biggest ones everybody was asking is how to make stuff other select. Now this will not apply to non-converted mods. This is just to in-game stuff. So once you get your mods up to par with how the new textures are doing, which I will cover in a future video, make sure you subscribe if you want to know when that video drops. But this will just be the code and how it works with the in-game stuff. Now, the code to actually make this color selectable is not in this XML folder at all. They did not give us the option nor assign a slot name on this vehicle. So we are going to manually do both. We go back into our data vehicles folder. We are going to go to Lizard here. From there, we're going to click on the pickup 2017, and we just want to open this. We don't want to copy it or anything like that, but don't make any edits to it. We're going to open it up in our XML, and at the very bottom of this, almost towards the bottom, right above the i3D mappings, we are going to see what's called base color configuration, and it's going to say use default colors. It's going to give us a material here with a slot name. Now this slot name is specific to the truck. If we just copied over right now, it wouldn't work. We have to actually open up Giants Editor and assign a slot name. And you might have to do this if this code isn't already present in the vehicle that you're trying to edit. I have moved that code over to our little ATV here, and I'm gonna hit save on it, and we're gonna open up our ATV inside of Giants Editor. With it open, we're gonna go to this one. It says Viz. Okay. Under the Viz, we can see in the material editing tab what all these different materials here. So one for rubber, one for leather, all this kind of stuff. We want to change the Kabuto orange. We're going to click on that one, and it does not have a slot name signed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this name right here, and I'm going to paste it in the slot name right here. I'm going to hit save on this, and from there, open back up our XML. We're going to go slot name here, and we're going to paste that slot name in there. After you've hit saved on everything, we open back up our game here, and we will do our store items reload. I covered how to use the reloading techniques in the very first episode. Store item reload, and we will see if that allows us to add the color now. So we got the color option, but it doesn't actually change the color. What happened there? Says failed to find material by slot name Kabuto Orange in vehicle base configurations material. What happened was that we loaded the store items reload, which we needed to do because it's a new feature that we're going to buy in the store. So we needed to reload that information, but we also needed to reload the i3D that I taught in the first episode. Now, the only way to really do that is to buy it and get in it and reload it, or each and every time you back out of the store here. So if we go to the truck, it loads that in, and if we back out of it and go back into it, it'll reload it. Now we still have this issue with Kabuto Orange. So I'm just gonna back out of it again. Maybe it didn't load it right, and we'll try it one more time to reload the i3D, and now it worked. With 0 errors, we solved this problem right here. And if we go into our main color, we can now, we want it hot pink. Yeah, it looks good. I like it. We got pink, yellow, and these are just the default colors. You can add more. I'm not going to cover that in this tutorial, but maybe in the future, so hit subscribe. Yeah, let's move on. There's one last thing. This video might be getting a little bit long, and we didn't really cover that much of Giants Editor yet. This turned into more of changing the color on your vehicle. But let's get into something else too. Let's show you this. I want you to open up your store and go to the truck category. From here, this CV Series International, this has some juicy code on it. If you want to learn how to mod, really look at this truck, and this really offers a lot of potential for new modder. You're going to see a ton of different versions of these being uploaded left and right, and you know what? I think you should just make your own. If you want to see that video of us editing that, let me know down in the comments that you want to see that. Let's open it up, and we will look in here. We can find out where the file's actually stored. It's stored under Data Vehicles International. Hard to read that because of the background text. International CV Series i3D. But it has a whole bunch of different color options that we can take the code off of it and put it inside of our vehicle. Now, I could have started and showed you guys how to mod with this vehicle, but it's kind of cheating. I'd rather show you as we add stuff to stuff that doesn't have it. Now, this juicy code is going to be found in the international folder in your Data Vehicles and International. Once we come in here, it's the top one, CV Series, and we want this. I would recommend just making a copy of this and pasting it somewhere and then opening that in Giants Editor. That way you don't mess up the original at all, because you're going to be using it a lot in the future, I guarantee it. In Notepad++, you can go split screen. If you don't know how to use Notepad++, I have a video covering that. I'll put up in the cards. We're just going to drag it to the other screen, so we have both the mod XML for what we're working on, the Kubota, and then also the CV Series on the other side. And most times the color information that we're looking for is usually right above the i3D mappings. Now, we already have a base color configuration. We want this. Design color configurations. I want you to just copy this whole code. You can just click and drag with it highlighted over to the other screen. And we're going to dive into a little bit and kind of gut this a little bit. We're going to gut it, but I'll explain what I'm gutting. This is going to be a name. We haven't covered L10 tags yet, so for the time being, just put it in as other 2 or whatever you want. This doesn't matter as long as you don't use any special characters and crazy stuff. And a quick explanation of this is special configurations. So there is a bunch of colors that is already installed in the game. I don't know what exactly those are right now, honestly. I've seen the folder, I just can't remember where it was on here. And you can copy out of there these template names. And another easy way, you can just open up other mod XML files and make a list of material template names. I haven't covered L10 tags yet. It's a little bit more advanced, but the game already has a stockpile of words that have been translated to tons of different languages, and this dips into that text file, and it'll say the word black. We can just put whatever name we want in there, Google, whatever. But this is if we were using a easy, ready to go material template names. And then there is some new methods for adding colors, but we're just going to use default colors for right now. So we are going to delete these. And right here, we're going to remove one of these material slots, ensuring always that tags are closed. If we don't close a tag, a bad day. So we've created that design configurations. We need to copy the code from our original base color configurations. We're going to paste that just right next to the title, and we'll put true on there. Next step we need to do is get a material slot name going for what we want to colorize. And what we're going to colorize on this guy would be, I want to be able to change the color of this black. So if I was going to assume metal painted right there, I'm not sure which one that is. You kind of have to metal painted black. That's the one we want, right? So I'm just gonna quickly make a name. I believe these slot names can just be whatever it is you want. I believe, as long as it matches up. So I'm just gonna put metal painted black matte on there, and then hit save. We're going to come into here and paste that information into here. Now, if all is said and done and true, we should be able to do a quick store items reload. And just letting you know, a quick task while you have your tilde up, you can use your up and down arrows to quickly cycle through old commands you've entered. That is super useful for me. So with that guy loaded, let's go back to where that is located into here. I like to have this up. Woohoo, look at that. It doesn't look the greatest, but now we can see that we can have any kind of color we want. And this would apply to anything that is already set up color-wise in any mod. That looks hideous. But you can go through, I'm assuming, and do that for the leather and what else does this thing have on it? The leather, the plastic, the fabric. Like, you could really edit every single color on this. Very simple like. And the next step for doing something like that would be reaching over into here. And you see how on this side, this is going to get a little garbled because there's a lot of text. I'm sorry. But we have our initial design configuration, and then you can apply a second one. Please notice that there's a 2 here. So you would just copy this over and repeat the same step we just did with this last one. But you add the next slot name in there, and you would assign a slot name. And the same thing with design 3. And take note that it is also in this if you start creating your own materials. But just a recap, you do not need this if you're going to use default colors. This is for making custom colors, and I'm not going to cover that in this video. Okay, in this section here, I'm going to show you how to put new 3D models into this vehicle, such as we're going to install a fire extinguisher, and I'm going to show you how to place it inside of the scene graph so you don't cause an error. Each one of these little transform groups have their own what's called index path. That index path is what the XML uses as reference. Look at it like a GPS navigational chart. And then the i3D mapping assigns a name to it to make reading the XML a lot easier. So if we were to keep this guy highlighted and we were to scroll all the way up, we would find that probably in the wheels section. You can see right here, this drive node. So it assigned wheel front right. You'll see wheel front right rot, and then we'll see wheel front right. That index path should match up with the bottom here. Now, you don't have to use i3D mappings, but it's a professional look. That's what you're going for. Sometimes I get sloppy and I just put this code, like I'll just take that and actually put it in there. That works as well if you're not wanting to get too technical. I think that was the right one, right? The front right. So that will work as well. Now that you understand about index paths, if we were to import in a fire extinguisher, and I want you to open up your data folder here, and we're going to click on this shared folder. This has a ton of like wheels and different i3Ds and whatnot that you can use in any of your mods. We'll click on that, and we're going to go to assets. Inside assets, there's adapters, light beams, hitches, cameras, construction cursor. It's endless stuff. We're going to locate the one. Let's try extinguisher small. We're going to import that in. Now, if we take this thing and we just have it clicked and selected here, you can see it highlighted down there. And let's put it, I'm going to press Control and B while I have that selected. And this is going to put us into interactive placement mode. So wherever I click next with either my left or right mouse button, it is going to go. So as I click right there, the origin point, which is where you see the cursor meets with this guy, it's the way it's designed to be able to just click where you want it and place it. But you'll use the gizmo here. If your gizmo isn't working, these three buttons right here, you have a translate, a rotation, and a scaling mode. All three of these do exactly that. If you want to just isolate one of them, you just click on it. If you want to get the whole gizmo where you can do it all in one, you just unselect them all, and you'll be able to grab the little small squares here to scale it up and down, which we don't want to do. You'll be able to grab the orbital rings here to rotate, which we don't want to do, or the lines, which are translate, so left, right, up, down. Now, as I was doing that, we'll look over here to the attribute section, and I actually messed up some of the rotations when I did that because it, what I would consider messed up. It's not perfectly 90 degrees. Okay, a lot of times when you start modding, you'll be like, oh, that's perfect. But if you want something perfect, come right over here to the attributes, and we're close to 90 degrees, but not quite there. So we'll just put in -90, press enter. And now we are exactly 90 degrees up and down. And if you wanted to rotate it, you would do that way. We also scaled it a little bit. If you look at our scale section, a normal size model is going to be 1:1:1. Sometimes when you import in from Blender, they're not scaled. You would freeze those transformations like this over here. We're not going to do that with this guy. We're just going to put it back to normal size. So I'm going to highlight that, press 1, press enter so it applies. And now we have a fire extinguisher in here. Sit here and tweak it and get it just perfect up against whatever it is. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to do that, but let's hit save here. And I'm going to tell you that when we load this up, it's going to throw an error, but I want you to see the error. So don't actually, if you're following along, don't actually follow along for a second, just watch. Okay, once I hit save and I load back up in here, I'm going to open up the tilde key. We're going to do store items reload. That doesn't really update what we did. Kind of have it actually. What we're actually going to do is just back out, and we're going to reload the i3D. And it's going to give us this error. And you notice our fire extinguisher is not there. It says i3D offers 2 objects, but 1 component has been loaded. So what it did is it recognized that it's not a part of the main dynamic component. So I'm not being told that it's being loaded. So I'm just going to delete it. A lot of that is because we didn't look at our syntax or our ordering here. Our compound, if we make this small, just to simplify this whole thing, there's only 2 right here, right? So this one would be 0, and this next one would be 1. But when we click on this main component, it has what's called a rigid body, and it has a dynamic. So it has a moving body. You can see this little square around it. That's where the game knows that this vehicle exists. And so when it bumps into stuff and whatnot, it won't go inside of that collision. Because we're working with vehicles, we need to make sure that all the work that we do is going to be inside of the mod. So like earlier, when we dragged the camera in there, we're just going to drag this inside of there. But first, let's create a transform group. Just a little folder for what I like to look at it, a little folder to store the work that we're going to do. Okay, we're going to create that, and I'm just going to name it edit for simplicity. We're going to middle mouse click and drag. And I like to go inside of the viz here. Not all mods are going to look like this, but this one has a joint where you can see main joint right here. It means it has some animation, skinning, and stuff like that that we don't want to mess with. A lot of Giants mods that come stock with the game are going to be like this, to where they put a lot of their animations built into it, so it's hard to actually edit the 3D model. But now that we have that little folder in there under our edit, we're going to do the same thing with our extinguisher, because as of right now, we need to change that index path to get it under the main component. So we're just going to drop that inside the edit box. With that in there, I'm just going to hit save. Didn't really do anything except create the transform group and put the extinguisher in there. After we hit save, we're going to come back in here and just exit and then come back into it, it should load in, and you can see that it loaded in with, and that error that we had before is now gone. I know you still see it there, but it's loaded right here with 0 errors. And that is how you put new objects. Like if you wanted a dancing girl up on your dash, that's how you would put that in there without causing issues and errors. If you put anything, if we were to move this here, let's go like this. We're going to move our edit up, right? So our index path is way different now. Let's hit save. Now when we load in, look at our error screen now. You see the difference? It didn't even load it. It kicked us out. That's because now everything's off. Every single one of these little i3D mappings, if we get down here, that are all numbered out, they're all wrong now. They're all like bumped up one. Anyways, it puts all that stuff off center. So if we were to move that back down to just the bottom of it, we're going to collapse all these just to make it easier to read. If we just put it back down there, hit save, come back into here, reload it up. Like, I think we might have messed it up so bad now that we might have to do another restore reload. I didn't expect to mess it up that bad. Yeah, okay. So because I messed it up so bad, I may have to restart the game. If you get to a point where it's just not working and you can't figure out why changes aren't like happening and whatnot, a lot of times you did an edit that the game just requires a restart, a reload of the mod completely from the mod disk. So keep that in mind. I done messed my game up. I ain't moving for jack. Do not do this. Okay, reloaded with a clean, fresh start. Let's open. And just like that, error free. And we can go through and change whatever color you want there. Hot pink and black. Do hot pink and black. Way to go. Now there's big time changes to collisions, and I fully don't know everything yet, but I will definitely give you a rundown of what I've figured out. Let us click on here to where it says main component, and you're going to come over to the attribute tag, and we'll click on rigid body up the top. You'll see dynamic right here. There's a static, dynamic, and cinematic. So static is like a brick wall, ain't moving. Dynamic would be stuff like vehicles, trailers, things that are user controlled and move. Cinematics more for like moving gates. I know that's one of them. And because it's a compound, it's like the main thing that the XML is going to read and register everything underneath it. The change that they did is now they have added these collision masks. And I'm not going to click on any of them because I don't want to mess this thing up. But there is some presets. So if you're making a vehicle, you just click on vehicle, and then there is a vehicle no tip anywhere, exact fill, wood triggers, trees, roads. We're going to dive into this. This is kind of more complex stuff if you're just trying to do base game editing right now, so we can learn how to use the editor with XML, because this is, I keep saying this is just an asset holder. It has a little bit of information here, but the meat and potatoes is the XML. For those looking for a quick rundown on materials and what's changed with that, what Giants does now is what we used to be able to do before is you just apply one material and you could use the shader to change all the colors and whatnot. Hard to show you that because we don't have those features on here anymore. But what they do now is if you want something metal painted, you would create that material in Blender, and then the same thing with rubber, black, and all this. And each different material would have its own material. I know that's super confusing, but before we could just run one material and you could run up to 8 different color types on it. Now they've expanded it up to where you could do substantial more, but it's just a little bit more complex. If you're converting stuff, you would have to take your model back out into Blender. And if you don't have access to the original blend file because of the way that Giants converts the 3D models to a triangulation type thing, it doesn't do so well when you export back out to Blender. That's the downside of converting mods. It's going to be kind of difficult unless the original mod creator has that blend file still, which I have a ton of mine, but I'm missing a bunch too. But there is no more putting UVs all over the place, moving them left, right, up, and down. You're just going to assign those UVs to a material and then reference those inside Giants Editor here. Once you did that, you would assign a slot name, your shader, and it looks like they're not using any kind of variation. And then you create that code that we did earlier with the configurations of color, and boom, you'd be rocking on just personal mods. I hope that little bit helps out anybody else who's just looking for some advanced info, because I know this was kind of a very newbie video, but I want to make sure you guys understand the basics right off the bat. If there's a topic that I missed or you want to see covered, please comment down below, and I will definitely do my best to kind of throw that in the next little class that we have.